Let's talk about that right here, right now. What we were just talking about, that really belongs online only. Welcome into our overtime segment here on SportsSource.tv, where we discuss things that you ask via Twitter or topics we didn't get to cover in today's show. Joined by Bob Hodge, Mark Pankratz, and Chuck Cavaleris. All right. First question I got was, what are Tennessee's odds of signing Nigel Warrior? Alabama, Auburn, Georgia, and Tennessee are his top four, and that's Dale Carter's son. And I was quickly going back through the phone in between segments here to see when the last time Dale Carter was recognized as a legend at UT, and he has been. He has been a legend of the game at Tennessee. So you do wonder, though, is Daddy going to get involved in that, or is he going to let his son just decide? But it looks like Carter has a decent relationship with Tennessee. If so, that can only benefit Tennessee, you would think. But how much? It's different family to family.
Well, and Tennessee's been on a winning streak for those kind of players of late.
Has.
I mean, they haven't got every one of them, but they've seemingly got the majority of them. Now the question is, how do those kids, when they come up here and they don't live up to the hype, you're living on your daddy's name.
Yep.
And you come up here, well, obviously, for one of the Berry brothers, it's been fantastic because he's living on your brother's name. But for some of the others,
making his own name.
Making his own name. So some of the others, I don't know.
Well, you've got Dylan Bates. I'm sure other schools are going to look at this and say, well, you don't just want to go up there to be some VFL because those guys, or son of a VFL, an SVFL, because those guys don't automatically get the playing time. Vic Wharton.
It's called an SOV.
I was thinking of it.
Yes. SOV. Mark, did you ever find, in terms of recruiting, how big of a deal was it? It's different family to family, isn't it?
It is. It's different based on it's going to boil down to the position of need and the playing time available, right? I mean, that's what all kids want is how much playing time am I going to have? It'd be cool to come up here, but some kids, they shy away from having to live up to that expectation of what their daddy did or what
Peyton
their brother
Manning
did. And so
Peyton Manning didn't want to go to Ole Miss.
It depends. I hope they get it because of a name like that and pair that up with Admiral Schofield.
Yeah.
That's two of the top names you'd have in college athletics.
If you could combine them together, it'd be Admiral Warrior. That'd be pretty good. All
Scared
right.
of that guy.
Somebody asked about the state of the Lady Vols at this point. My take would be this. It's December. Basketball is a sport that if you get hot after Valentine's Day, that's when it matters. We talked about the Butler game for the men's team today, and we're saying, well, it was the most impressive game. I don't even think it's unlikely that we're going to be sitting here a week from now saying, boy, they look terrible against Gonzaga. Yeah. This team's not going anywhere. It's just up and down. And I think you're trying to find your identity at this point. No one's happy about it, but I wouldn't freak out in a 4-month sport over what's going on in December. It's just me.
Well, and the other part about it, when you talk about the state of Lady Vols, what we're comparing it to is what Pat Summitt did and these Final Fours, and that's what Holly's supposed to love. But the thing about it is the landscape of women's basketball has completely changed. Before it was 5-10 really good programs year in, year out that Pat had to beat. No disrespect to her, unbelievable coach, best of all time. But for Holly, you have 5 teams just within the SEC that are now recruiting at national level. I don't discount the fact that they have 7 All-Americans on the team right now, but it's just completely different. They're still winning SEC championships.
And I would say there have been a couple of troubling signs when your coach gets so frustrated that doesn't even coach in the second half. Yeah. Just sits down on the bench, is so frustrated, doesn't talk to the team in the locker room at halftime.
Well, she's trying to get she's obviously using that that's a Gene Hackman Hoosiers kind of thing. My team's on the floor.
And then you also watch them, they go 1 for 19 on threes. I know you can have an off game shooting.
They've had an off-season shooting.
Exactly.
That's your issue.
That's what I find, that's why I was saying I think there are a couple of troubling things there.
Here's the thing, though. Mark, you're looking at some players who shot 10, 15% better from the field last year than they are this year. How does that trace to coaching?
Yeah,
how can a coach screw that up? If you got some people who are hitting their shots this year, and the next year they come out and they don't hit their shots.
Well, you can the coach's job is to put people in the best position to be successful. They talked about in the men's game yesterday. Yep. Out of a timeout, we got a great look. Kid didn't make it. That's all you can do from a coaching standpoint within the game. Then it's about preparation. What are you doing in practice to get the shots? get them those game shots. But sometimes you're just not making shots. It can become contagious. But I think that these coaches, they're still trying to figure out how to utilize the talent that they have, put it together, and become more offensively efficient.
And because of injuries and some other factors too, they only had 7 players in uniform the other night.
Yeah, that makes it a little tough.
That makes it a little tough. But I'm saying if you're 1 for 19 on threes, let's start trying to get the ball inside a little bit more. Let's cool it off on these 3-pointers, and let's see if we can score in the paint some.
I will say this: they're not shooting as well. Obviously, she is frustrated to the nth degree to sit there and say, I'm going to send a message by not coaching them. This will be the message to them. I think that also tells you why you don't panic in December.
Well, yeah.
If it was a March game, she's not going to be doing that. It was a December game. She's trying to get a message across. Whether you agree with the way she did it or not, that's clearly what she was doing. But if she has that much doubt about this kind of team, and John Adams, I thought, wrote a nice piece yesterday or the day before, that this team just doesn't seem to care about losing, whereas past Lady Vols teams have cared about losing.
They'll care about it at 6 o'clock the next morning.
I just wonder about this team's mental makeup. Every team is different, and that will change from year to year based on chemistry or whatever.
Yeah, and sometimes it's just hard. Holly's been in this program and seen it the Tennessee Lady Vol way ever since she grew up here.
Yeah.
And kids have just changed, and sometimes it's just trying to get them. We haven't seen what's going on in practice in the locker rooms to how it got to that point to say, I'm not going to coach you. Look, y'all think you got it figured out? Here, go do it. See what happens. I bet you that staff is part of it. That's a win from some ways because, look, if you're not listening to me, you thought you could go figure it out on your own, you lost. Well, now listen to me and let's get this thing figured out.
I got a tape that, how I would love to put it online. I've shown some of you. I don't think I've shown you. I've got a 20-minute halftime tape of Kevin O'Neal when he was here.
You can't put that in
No,
online.
I would literally have to. It was a 15-minute halftime speech. I'd have to edit it for 4 days just to get it on air. But one of the funniest things in the world in this whole deal is, he runs through everything they need to do, and he says, but don't listen to me. Hell with O'Neal. Go out there. You know what you're doing. Do your own thing. And it's basically what you're talking about. It's like, okay, you think you got it figured out? Have at it. But being Kevin O'Neal, he didn't just sit on the sideline there and not move. He had that mouth flying with the little exclamation points and the number sign and the pound sign all coming out. All right. Butch Jones, Tennessee's going to give him a raise, looks like.
And people are upset.
People are upset. Does he deserve one, or is that, to me, it's just the cost of doing business these days?
10, 15 years ago, it doesn't happen. Mm-hmm. But nowadays, it happens. It's going to happen. The raise isn't going to be huge. Any Tennessee fan that doesn't realize you finally got your football program going in the right direction, what it does, it will make him easier. It make it easier for him to recruit. Gives everybody a little bit more security. Now, I do have a little bit of a problem as buyouts continue to grow and mushroom and become these incredible things. I don't know what they're going to do with this buyout.
Well, last year they didn't increase the buyout, but the deal is when you give them another year,
you increase it.
That does increase the buyout.
But I'm fine with that.
Yep.
I like that better than saying, and by the way, we'll add another $2 million on the backside.
Right, and he's got a buyout if he leaves. Like all these assistants, they've all got buyouts. Now they let Mark Elder out because it was a move up, and he told him on time, and he's going to stay through the bowl. And I would assume that's what's going to happen if Martinez and Azani leave. They're going to also coach the bowl game, or they will be on the hook for whatever their contract says they're on the hook for. Cost of doing business these days, or do you have a problem with him getting a raise?
I think it's the cost of doing business because sometimes if you don't show them the love earlier, and then all of a sudden, look, we've been hard on him. Half of people or the loudest portion of the fan base wanted him fired mid-season. Yeah. Then he does go out and have a really good next year, and now some program comes calling and throws him the big money. If they haven't taken care of him on the front end, he's gone. Look what happened. Different kind of story, but looking at with Conzo Martin. Dave Hart didn't come out and show him the love early on in the season. And so that's fuming inside of him. Program comes calling, he walks out, and now we're left looking for another coach.
And look at the salaries.
And then another coach.
And we've talked about this, John, even just in football for head coaches in the SEC West. Didn't we say that it's like $4 million a year?
Yeah, that's the minimum.
That's the minimum. I mean, and I know how many times have we heard a Tennessee fan said, "Pay me $4 million a year, I'll coach them." Well, yeah, we'll see how that works out.
Why?
I think it's the cost of doing business, and it's a reward for a job well done.
Well, exactly. I mean, you got people saying, "Well, you're rewarding him for blowing all these games." No, you're rewarding him for, if they win their bowl game, you would have taken a team. People forget this. Tennessee was on par with Kentucky and Vanderbilt.
It might have been below that.
They were below Vanderbilt.
Well, they were
probably.
struggling
Yeah.
to beat Kentucky and Vanderbilt. That's where your program was. You can deny that. You can ignore that. You can try and forget that. That's where the program was. He's gone from 5 wins to 7 wins, if they win the bowl game, to 9 wins. That gets you a raise. Anywhere in America, that gets you a raise. If anybody's barking and complaining about this, well, I tell you who's going to bark and complain. The people who make a living of barking and complaining. It's 20%. Will Overstreet nailed it. 20% are always positive. You can't do any wrong. 20% always negative, hate everything. And the 60% are swayed by the loudest crew, whichever that is. But there are 20% in this town or this fan base, like there are in every fan base, that will complain about anything. Remember, in the past, it's been Tennessee's cheap. Why are we paying at the bottom of the league? Remember that? Tennessee's too cheap, won't pay. Okay, now they're paying. What are they doing? Paying. How come Tennessee's paying too much? You can't win. Can't win. And we'll close with this one very quickly. There are already some complaints that Nick Sheridan will be promoted. There's some folks who feel that Butch Jones is scared to go out and get anyone from outside his tree of friends, which if you've got 2 of your quarterbacks that are committed and they're daddies and they're talking great things about Sheridan, he's already been on the staff as a GA, I don't see what you're angry about there.
Get angry about it when it quits putting you on that forward curve I was talking about.
And that's just,
that's
to
when you
me,
can get
it's
mad.
looking at it from the outside in without knowing the day-to-day activities and what people are saying that are personally involved with the program and the recruits you're bringing in. You're just popping off without knowing the facts.
Sure.
We could do a whole show on whether it's politics, movies, sport. It's just, there are people recipes. There are people in this world now who get off on being angry every day. I'm going to get up in the morning and I'm going to be a smart ass on Twitter. I'm going to be ugly and angry. I'm going to send something to the coach at Northwestern. Why? What kind of loser does this? Who has loser parents that would raise you to be such a loser? Because here's what I'd like to see. All those people that tweeted Pat Fitzgerald, the former linebacker at Northwestern, go up to him at the bowl game and repeat what you said via Twitter. That's what I'd love to see. That's what I'd love to see, is he knocked their head into next week. But there's a group of folks in this world that just live to be upset over everything. Over everything. It's amazing. All right. I'm upset about that. I'm one of the 20. See you next week for our Christmas special. Next Sunday at 11 a.m. on WATE 6. It's our Christmas cheer episode. It's always one of our most fun, most enjoyable, and cruelest shows of the year. Join us next Sunday.